Hey guys, I'm Revengeance, and I welcome you to another live stream with Stacey Smyth and me for American Horror Story. Tonight's episode is The Forbidden Fruit, and welcome, Stacey. Welcome.
Hey everyone, glad to be back.
We're gonna jump right in because this was like just a crazy episode, and a lot of stuff happened, and it started kicking off right at the beginning. We had Michael Langdon, who was doing his cooperating interviews again and carrying on, and he found some people that he thought would be interesting to carry on, and one that I think kind of literally scared the hell out of him. What did you think about that opening scene?
So far, and this one was no different. I was taking notes at the time I was watching it, and I like wrote in all caps really fast, circling all sorts of stuff, and oh my goodness, it really got me what happened between those two particular individuals. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. You know you want to say it. What happened between Michael and Mallory? Because who would have thought that that was coming from little old Mallory to begin with, little Miss Gray,
Okay.
right?
So I'm not gonna lie here. I think you guessed it again, that there was something about Mallory that I didn't see. And you're killing me. You're killing me with this. You're always right. So I'm just gonna freaking bow down to you. You're right, okay? You're just right. So yeah, Mallory versus Michael, and they wowed each other. They had obviously never met in their capacity before. He seemed to have already met Dinah, and he didn't give two craps about Coco and her abilities. But Mallory really was just like, wow. He's like, who are you? Like, basically, what are you? Who are you? And she said she didn't know. And, he showed his true self at that moment. Um, whew, gosh, that one really just got me going. I'm not gonna lie, like that was definitely the scene of the episode for me, right there, right at the beginning.
Yeah, it was me too. And as much as I love, and we'll get to the ending, of course, and I really love the ending too. So it's kind of like a big old sandwich of greatness on this whole episode. I loved it. But it was amazing. It really was. And it was like a total Hellraiser vibe with the way he just came at her, and she just threw it right back at him. And I think it kind of scared her too, a little bit. And we had Peter Griffin over here said something about she has angel's blood. And I have to say that I totally think you're on the right track, Peter. I think there is definitely something angel vibing about her. We seen Michael when he was sending that little communication to his father via I don't even know what to call that, summoning, I guess, that he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of some little smart ass cell phone comment there. But yeah, whenever he was dialing up daddy there, it was really interesting because he said, he thought he had killed them all. He got rid of them all, but there was still one left. And that one left was there, and he found her, So I think that's definitely Mallory that he's talking about there. And it makes me think that he's talking about angels, because we obviously have more than one witch left. And that's just too broad a scope there, And what's your whole opinion on that one?
I think what they have to do in this entire season is they have to go. I think, just my opinion, what I would like to see is for Michael to go back and to show what happened, what sort of massacre occurred, and how Mallory survived, because because she has no idea of her powers. The way that she was talking about what she was able to do to Coco and Gallant, they, Coco had some choice words, and you know how I feel about her, and she wasn't able to do it on demand. So something big, it brings it out of her. And I think that she instinctively knew what she needed to do to him. Maybe because she felt threatened for should show what happened to where, she came to what she is. Because I've been looking around trying to figure out who she's related to, and I can't pin her to anybody yet.
I think who she's related to is going to be very interesting. Vanderbilt itself is a very old money name, and I think that'll somehow probably tie her definitely to the cooperative, which it already does with the cooperative. But I think the corporation. I'm doing that again, and the whole board of directors. I think it's going to tie her to that, but I think it's tying her. Well, it definitely ties her to the witches too. But I think it's going to be in an older sort of way back to probably Salem, just because it is such an old money name, and she's got the whole Saint Pierre in there too. I had actually looked at, oh man, Cordelia's mom, and I'm just having a blonde moment. Fiona's name on her passport one time, and she had a very old money name too. And one of her names, her middle name on there was actually Borgia. And that's a very old power name right there, going back to Italy and all that,
Yeah.
And so that's kind of interesting, just paying attention to the names right there and see what they tell us about the witches' history and how it ties into power and money and, greed and all that, because they do have power. They have a lot of power and control over men too. We've seen that. Just with Fiona alone and seeing what kind of influence I can do for him. And like even with the male witches with Quentin, he was talking about how he had his book and how it was on the bestseller list and all that other stuff. So seeing how I can see how Coco had her fame, being what she was. And on some degree, I think maybe that even where she was talking smack about maybe one day, Mallory, I can make you disappear. I think that was going to be a kind of foreshadowing. And I'm a little worried about that one.
Yeah.
It's just really interesting how they kind of played off each other. And it made me wonder too, just how much she knew that Mallory was special, especially when we see later on in the episode that she knew someone else famous, and that will tie in, what do you think as far as the connection with the different witches and that fact, because there's definitely connections between the different ones and between the different shows, but how they're bringing them together in this one, and the fact, like I'm saying, with Madison later on, she knows Mallory, and how they're bringing them connections in. How do you feel about that? How do you think that's going to play
out? You were probably going to be right once again with the whole Madison and Mallory thing, because Mallory was Coco's assistant, and it's likely that she was also Madison's. The more I think about that, and just kind of the fact that that Madison just kind of talked to her as if she knew her, that makes me think that that's likely true. I'll be honest with you, speaking of connections, and I know this doesn't really have to do right away with the witches per se, but I didn't realize that Andre was related to Dinah. And it came out in his interview about his mom that he would, that she was right there with him. So so that was a little unexpected for me. I don't assume that just because, two people are the same color that they're necessarily related or anything. I made no assumptions for the two of them, and I could have, and I didn't. And I was actually surprised by it. I was like, oh, she's there with her son, just like Gallant is there with his, Nana, and she did die, so I was boohooing over that because, yeah, I was a little upset. I wanted her to live a little bit longer.
I like how they tried to cover that up some. Like, just
Yeah, she
like
died in
tried
her
to trick them
sleep.
into thinking, yeah, oh, she just died in her sleep. You're so grief stricken.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll give myself just the slightest bit of credit. You know, he did feel bad after she died, just like I thought he would. Um, so I kind of I was happy to see that about his character, that you know that he wasn't just being like an idiot and just really, you know, I don't know, not really caring about the fact that, you know, his last closest relative was dead. I think that would have really sucked. So, uh, but connections, yeah, this episode was definitely about the connections. Brock came out of nowhere too to come back for
Yeah, he
Coco.
was all looking like the Hound. We were joking
Yeah,
about that
right.
earlier.
I did. That came out so that's awesome.
Oh, that was too hilarious. I loved it, man. Yeah, he
Uh,
did. He it was like, and it was just a total Mad Max moment. And you know, he had so much fun when he was doing that part too. Now, I got ideas about Brock too, because I kind of think with it being Halloween, that some ghosts in there, and I'm thinking that that's what Brock was all about. I don't think he's going to be with us once we get past Halloween. I'm thinking that that's all he was there as kind of a vengeance against. He had some unfinished business, and that's all he was about. I don't think that he will be a part of the show for very long. Rather, you know, I think we
yeah,
were just seeing kind of what happened to him, basically.
yeah. So Brock, I mean, you know, he pulled a really, he became my hero of the episode for a while, when he decided to stab Coco like right square in the brain. And I was just, I'm not gonna lie, I looked at my husband while we were watching it, and I was like, yes, thank you, someone's listening. And then, yeah, I
Yeah,
lost
that
that.
was great.
I lost that feeling almost as soon as it came. So uh, I'm disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. I can't stand Coco. And between her and Madison, I know I'm gonna be really annoyed. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So
I can't
I'll
wait to see
try.
them go back and forth just to see who's going to be like the ultimate queen bitch. And I just really think Madison will be. I can see her just taking Coco down a few notches, but it's going to be fun to watch them go toe to toe. I remember when Madison and Misty had their little bitch fight back during Coven, and I laughed just so
That
hard at that. So I can't
was
wait to see
cool.
what happens between them two.
That was actually pretty cool. You know what, that's gonna make me feel better in all of this, is hopefully Misty comes back and does the same thing to Coco and just like punches her a few times to knock some sense into her. So that would be great.
Come back and
I
back.
would
They
definitely,
remember
I
the
would
queen
like to
bitch.
see that. That's mean. I won't be mean anymore. Anyway,
You just have Coco rage, that's all.
I
Coco
just
was a
can't.
big hoe on this episode, by the way. And
Yeah. Um,
actually was talking to her husband about her boyfriend while she's propositioning what she thinks is Michael Langdon with
yeah.
some, yeah, she was just all over the place. I'm just gonna say Coco Ho. That's it. um, I would say that his response to all that was probably what I would expect. I mean, yeah, after coming all that way and everything to find her and sneaking in, I would expect nothing else. I really expect a lot of people to be quoting that this Halloween.
Wow.
Uh, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's going to be a big one this year. Now let's move on to the apples that came in with Brock.
Uh-huh.
Now we've had a lot of Adam and Eve talk this season, and that really kind of brought that one home there, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. They they keep building on it, and like I told you when we were writing back and forth about this, it did have a little bit of that, Disney, Snow White kind of feel to it at first. And I don't know, like maybe it's just me, but it 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 was too easy. It was too easy. I didn't, I don't know.
Well,
But they look like
the
they're fun.
dancing was like, are they serious right now? Because that dancing was very Disney-like, and it seemed like
It
they were
was,
going over the top, trying to be cheesy. Then they brought them apples out, and
yeah,
all I could hear was Chad from Murder House just screaming about where the wrong apples. They got the wrong apples in there, and that they need some gala apples. And I just heard Chad in my mind, and then seeing him out there
right.
smashing pumpkins.
That's right. He did mention about the wrong apples, and he was pretty upset about it too.
Oh yeah. So I think that was a nice nod back to Murder House there too. I like that part.
Yeah.
And then yeah, they kind of went just a little over the top with the throwing up, and yeah, I
You
get
know
it.
what? I'm going to go Game of Thrones for a second. And it reminded me of the whole Samwell montage with the soup and the poop. Soup and poop.
Yeah, just what a shitty place Citadel is. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So it had that sort of vibe to me. Like, it was just really, yeah, gross. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like way out there. It reminded me a lot of Family Guy actually. Um, just how they do them scenes all the time with all of them, where it triggers with one and it goes all around the room. Now, tell me, did you notice that Timothy was wearing at Masquerade? He had like on a crown.
Yes, I did notice that.
So,
And yeah.
yeah, that made me think back to when we were talking before about how we had Michael having the little brother that was the twin, and if he is considered, I guess, the Dark Prince or whatever, wouldn't that make Timothy royalty as well? That'd make him some sort of prince or something. I'm convinced
Maybe.
now that they're in hell. There is nothing that can convince me otherwise. I'm thinking back to the attic and just other different places that we've seen, and most people have watched American Horror Story long enough now to where they expect it to be they expect to see some sort of personal hell, if nothing else. And I know I talk about Kevin a lot, but it's just fresh in my brain right now. But
That's
even
part of the wonders too. If you remember, the witches have to go into their own personal hells as a trial for the seven wonders. So I this could relate to that.
it could relate to that. It could relate to the ones after they die. That's where they just go, and that's where they're just stuck, like where they were in the attic. And Marie Laveau, that's where she had to go forever, was to go and torture the other ones in the attic. And it just makes me think maybe that's where these people are. And I question the whole limbo thing again, and I wonder if this really is limbo. And maybe they're just waiting to actually really see where they're going, or just hanging out,
But that's what purgatory, or that's what limbo is supposed to be, is where they receive judgment.
Right. But I'm thinking about, because I'm thinking about the different levels of hell, and if we think about that theory and what we would have left, because we would have limbo and violence left if they're still going by that. And so this is definitely not violence, but if you think about limbo, it's definitely got a whole limbo feel to it. And I'm kind of thinking more and more that Emily is probably Emily from Roanoke, and that Timothy is probably Michael's little brother. Just we're seeing the grown-up versions. It's been this long since time passed, and I'm actually wondering who the other ones could be. Like, is Mallory really an assistant that was hers, and now maybe she died back then or something? Maybe in a plane crash with Coco, with Coco and her hairstylist or something like that, and that was into their world, and the pilot survived, and that's why we didn't see the pilot.
You're gonna do that to me. You're totally gonna do that to me.
I'm just starting to see things a little differently, and it's making my, you know, I'm thinking that this is their hell, you know, and they're stuck there, and it's making me wonder, like, even who Galan is and who Nana is, if maybe we've seen them before.
Well, it's funny because, you know, the callback to her, the actress. I mean, there's all these little connections that we're still figuring out, and I think that they're all, you know, still connected in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know. It's just a matter of time before we see the bigger picture of it all, really.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit there, Stacey.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
That's okay. That's okay. You was talking about callback, so yeah, let's talk about what went on with let's talk about Kathy Bates. Kathy Bates had a week this week.
Yeah, I have a lot
I think
about that.
Yeah, I think it was kind of funny that she was Rosie from the Jetsons. That was kind of funny with her being a robot. And then taking care of the baby, you know, or her first date was the Omen, I believe is what it was. I can't even think now. With the baby, with Damien. Rosemary's Baby. There we go.
Yeah.
I was like, I know it's one of them with the creepy babies. Which one was it?
And I have some stuff about that. I actually have some stuff about that. So I remember watching
You're cutting out on this again, Stacey.
Say what?
You were watching what? You cut out again on us.
Oh, Rosemary's Baby when I was a lot younger. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good now.
Oh, okay. Well, so Rosemary's Baby, I haven't seen that in such a long time that I had to go back and remind myself what it was really about. And when I read the synopsis, I literally felt like it was talking about, no kidding, the murder house and this apocalypse season along with the coven. So I encourage anybody uh, to go out and look at the synopsis for Rosemary's Baby, because it's going to tell you a lot about what we already know about these three particular seasons of shows and how they come together too. And we may even get some clues from it. So Rosemary's Baby, 1968, everyone. It was really fascinating, and it even includes a witch's coven, which totally blew my mind, because I just, you know, I was so young, I don't remember it, but you know, it was ritualistic, and you know, this baby was supposed to be, you know, like, you know, the son of you know, son of the devil basically, and just so many parallels. And it feels like they just called back to that entire movie in order to make this connection.
It was really creepy, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
it made me think too. And I know there's people out there that are thinking one thing, but to me, it made me think instantly that this Miriam Mead is made after the nanny from Murder House. And I've heard some people that are saying that they think it's possibly Constance, but I don't see him getting that kind of love and attention from Constance. I can see him getting it from a nanny, but not from that woman. She was just too stuck on herself and in love with herself to give that kind of affection to any child. I don't care, even if it's the spawn of Satan, you know. I just don't see it happening.
I agree.
The whole Rosemary, and I remember Rosemary's Baby. That was, even for being made in 1968 and the special effects at that time and everything, it was a really creepy movie even back then. Yeah, that Witch's Coven was creepy too. I remember them. All of it. Yeah. Even if you just read the synopsis, I recommend it. But I recommend watching it. It really is a good movie.
Yeah, there's just there were too many undeniable parallels, and I figured there was a reason that that Miriam Mead was bringing it up. So I instantly went and looked at it, and I was like, "Holy crap! She's basically telling us the story. This is." Did I stop again?
Yeah, and then it made some crazy sound, like it was like a mechanical alligator mouth opening almost.
Anyway, it just wasn't a throwaway line, is what I'm getting at. So
Right. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying though. Yeah, I do. And yeah, and she went all crazy, like talking about she was a robot too, and she was like playing that line. That was just a really cool line that she did, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And and the fact that he just, she was playing along like she was Venable's, I'm loyal to you. I'm your right. Well, I guess she was the hand if Venable was the right arm, right? And the other chick's the fist. So,
yeah.
and is the fist really gone? I mean, we don't know. We've seen her get stabbed in the back, but that don't mean nothing, She could be a robot too. We've seen one of those already shot. So, yeah, we don't really know what's the deal with her yet. But, and then we seen her go in there with Michael and the truth revealed, I guess, as to who she is without saying totally who she is.
Yeah.
And just how all that played out and everything, it was kind of funny to see how easily she turned, and it kind of even surprised her a little. But I think that Kathy Bates really it was a Kathy Bates episode. It really was. She took it away. Now, as far as where everyone's just kind of wiped out now, I kind of I have a feeling that they're going to pop back up. How about you? What are you thinking on that one?
It was too easy. I mean, I just didn't feel satisfied that that was the end when I was seeing that. Snake's venom, depending on the type of snake, doesn't always kill a person. It may make you really sick, but it may not kill you. And depending on the type of snake, I mean, I don't know. It looked like it was a lot of venom for a single apple, but that doesn't mean, that it's deadly. If somebody, let's just say somebody had an allergy, like to a single bee sting, that could be deadly for them. I could totally see that. But I just don't know that that was it. I mean, maybe they underestimated the power of this venom and it just made them really, really sick and knocked them out for a while. So, but where I kind of teeter on that is the fact that Cornelia, uh, I'm saying it right? Holy crap! Anyway,
Cordelia.
Cordelia, thank you, Cordelia. Holy crap! That she had to bring those witches back. So the fact that she had to go through that entire process made me think that they were dead in the first place, or close to dead, or on their way to dying to where she could revive them. So if they were dead for a long time, it may not have been possible, I'm guessing.
No, that's a good point to bring up, actually. And that made me think, one, that Michael could do the same, and which I had already thought, because I've talked before about I think he's a witch. And even witch powers aside, I mean, who his father is, I would think he would have some kind of power. And I think he's playing with them to begin with. So, I think he can easily raise them if, like, in a Thanos snap,
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up the snakes. I know my mom has got to be hating this season because, like, I've watched like almost every season with my mom, and she hates snakes. She's always in the backyard chopping their heads off because they come up in her yard all the time. And them snakes just reminded me of water moccasins when I first seen them. I was like, oh hell. And they're trying to milk them. Yeah, but you're perfectly right. Depending on what kind of snake it was, what kind of venom it was, depends on. And I'm thinking, how the hell are they sitting there milking that much venom from them snakes? Like, where did them snakes just randomly come from? Was that the ones from his ritual earlier? Because I don't remember them being that big. But if he made the apples appear, I guess he made the snakes appear. I don't know. But
I mean,
if
it was something, if they were like, black mambas or whatever, kind of like in Kill Bill, right? Kill Bill, the second one, where where she brings the snake in and, it totally, bites the holy heck out of him and totally kills him. I mean, it didn't take that long. He didn't even really throw up much. He just pretty much faded away. I mean, that's how quickly that works. But yeah, it just depends on the snakes. And it almost made it look like that's what they were trying to, extract the venom from. But I don't know what kind of snakes are native to that area, what they would be able to find or whatever. I just, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't, I don't know that it's the end of everybody. It's just too easy that when it all comes down to it.
Exactly. That's why I think they're all just going to rise back up. And it does. It's exactly too easy. Why would everyone go out that fast? I think he's toying with them. I think it was part of his testing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was to test Venable to see what kind of wickedness she was capable of, but it didn't mean that it was going to be deadly for everybody else. Just to see if she would do it. That's the test. If she was going to kill them, I mean, she could have just gone and, they could have just shot everyone in the head just to make sure, and they didn't do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I also thought it was funny that she was the only one that actually ate an apple before anything was shot into him. So it'd kind of be funny if that came back to haunt her, and that reminded me more of Disney than anything, because she was just kind of very wicked queen there, from Snow White. It just hit me, especially the way her hair was done up. It was hilarious.
It is. It totally reminded me of that, and like Cinderella's stepmother, and like those kinds of things. It was so Disney-esque, and I had a hard time with that entire scene. Except for the fact that Mallory looked pretty upset that she couldn't take a bite of her apple right away. I mean, she put on the puppy dog eyes for sure. I liked it. I thought it was, yeah.
I know she's very Susie from Whoville, isn't she?
Yeah, I love it. You know what? That's exactly what came to mind too. I was like, she's straight out of Dr. Seuss, isn't she?
Right, she really is. I love it. I love the hair. I love it. I look like that some mornings when I wake up, I swear. Peter Griffin, he said he put the idea in her head knowing he can't do the deed himself. And that's very true. That's one of the things that he loves to do, is watch other people do the deeds themselves instead of him having to get his hands dirty. He was talking about that on an earlier episode even too. And that was something his father was very good at as well. And, he prides himself on that. And it's almost like, he needs someone else to do it. Let's see. It's like he needs someone else to do it to keep himself more pure, I guess. At least that's kind of what I'm wondering, because it seems like he's needed later for other reasons. And I'm wondering if it's going to have something to do with the whole Mallory thing. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm thinking back to the Pope's box again, where it was talking about the joy and the sorrow when the Pope read about the nature of the apocalypse. And it made me think of him being the sorrow and her being the joy. we've been looking at Emily and Timothy this whole time and thinking of them with the whole Adam and Eve. What if it's maybe a Mallory and Michael Langdon sort of thing going on? She's already said that there's something inside her, so maybe it's something inside her with the part inside him that are going to come together.
So that's what got me, right? Is that when he was assessing Dinah, Coco, and Mallory, he saw a darkness in her. So there's something that she's gonna have to overcome if that's the case. She needs to get rid of this darkness in order to, to come to that light that she's supposed to represent, if that's the case. But Dinah was definitely a dark soul to him. Coco was a non-factor. She was just, a witch bitch or whatever. But, he said that she was too shallow to have any true darkness. So to me, I don't see her, like, if we had to put them on sides, I don't see Coco going toward Michael's side. I don't see that happening because he already assessed that she doesn't have that true darkness in her, but Dinah does. So, if there's going to be anyone that, that changes sides, and we were talking about this like a week or two ago, we were saying that, some people were going to be switching sides. Dinah would be most likely to follow Michael, but Mallory is still a wild card right now because, number one, she still doesn't know what she is yet. Number two, he sees a darkness in her. But number three, there's obviously a conflict with her light against his darkness because she put forth bright light aside from the flames that were going behind in the room. If you contrast everything, you see his face and there's her bright light going toward his face and the fire from behind. It shows that, she's not as dark as maybe he may think. Maybe he sees that she's going toward the light and maybe he's trying to prevent that. I'm not sure, but
think about it. He's not complete darkness either. There's still the half of him that was, oh man, I'm trying to think of his mother's name now. Connie Britton's character from season 1, Vivian. So his mother was Vivian and his father, was the spirit, so we have that, which it's toss up. You want to call it Tate, we'll call it Tate. So Tate was his father, so he's got that half and half quality about him. So, and I really like the fact that she used, and I want to talk about this for a second. She used a Dark Phoenix reference. Now, this to me has kind of multiple reasonings. It could be number one, because they dropped the trailer that night. I don't necessarily think that's totally why. I think that's kind of more coincidence than anything. And I think that's more coincidence than anything. I don't think that's that good a PR going on. Let
me ask this real quick, Ree. Is there some sort of connection between the American Horror Story production team or anything like that and that particular movie?
Okay, well, FX is Fox, and Fox is the one that does all the X-Men movies. And Fox just now got bought out by Disney, so they're kind of going there. But it's the same company that made all the X-Men movies that did Dark Phoenix and all that. So, yeah, there is. Yep. There's a big connection.
Yeah, so that would make sense.
Yeah, so I really like that. But what I like more is the fact that she's comparing herself to Dark Phoenix. And, oh, man, I swear I'm going to put some links in this playlist for you guys to watch. Of just one of my favorite comic guys on here, and I want you guys to check him out. His name is Rob, and I highly recommend subscribing to him. He's just got really cool videos in general. But I don't want to give away too much because I don't want to ruin people with movies and stuff, and I tend to do that. But I just am wondering how much of the whole Dark Phoenix plot is going to be intertwined with the whole Mallory plot. But let's just talk a minute about Phoenixes and what they represent and the whole rebirth and all that. And she seems to be attracted to the flames and attracted to fire and have some affinity for it. And just the positioning of it when she's thinking about it and hearing his voice in her head later on, it's making me think a lot about Phoenix and rebirth. And I really do think that she is going to be the key. And now I've seen over here again too in chat where, well, they're not brother and sister. We know that, first of all.
Yeah, they're not related.
But yeah, but we the whole two young lovers twist, I kind of like that. A lot of people have talked about American Gods, and I've yet to watch it. I really need to watch that one because I know I'd love it too. But I really like that that being a possibility, that the two young lovers represent pure, good, true love. If they can stay true, then humankind has a chance. That would be a really good kind of twist for this. And I could see something like that being plausible. And I still think back to that there's going to be some baby born as a result of this all, because we've seen a baby in the trailers and in the ads and stuff with the little demon hand or devil hand, whoever that's going to be. So I'm wondering where the child's going to come from still. Do you think it's going to be from them? Is Mallory, is that what's inside Mallory maybe? Or is there something, you know, like the angel thing going on?
That would be an interesting twist, right? Because they had us believing that, you know, that we were supposed to have our eyes on Timothy and Emily. So, yeah, I think that could be, I think that could be a pretty cool thing to look forward to. If I don't, yeah. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with that.
All right, let's bring in the witches now. We have the Rolling Stones bringing in the witches.
Okay, she's a rainbow. You know that song. I'm tired of hearing it on commercials, and when I heard it, I was like, really. But I mean, there is significance in all these songs that we've been talking about. So you know, Cordelia, not Cornelia, is she's a source of light. So, you know,
it kind of went by, they were like in their shades of hair too, which were kind of fiery colors. It went from like the blondest to kind of golden to red hair. So, and it was all just like shades of light. So I thought that was kind of cool. It reminded me of a rainbow. And she came in and she breathed life back into the three witches. And I'm kind of wondering what's so special about those three. I mean, I know they said, you know, let's get our sister witches. So that was probably why. But what is it about those three in particular that they needed? You know, like we know that Dinah, she's evil. That's what his words. And that she is one that Michael said that he'd love to take on in his new world. So what good is she going to be for them? What's her role? And Mallory, we know she's a big deal already. And Coco, what is the purpose of Coco anymore? I mean, is she just time filler and comedic relief now at this point? And then that brings up the question of if Gallant does rise, he knows something's up with Mallory, and he can very easily tell the other ones. So, yeah, I mean, that just opens a whole nother can of worms when we got the witches coming in now, which, yay, it was about time with that one. That was an exciting one.
I bet you're excited. Well, you know, one thing that I did notice about the three of them was that she brought back two people with her that died two deaths in the coven, and I decided to look into the concept of dying a second death, and it is actually funny. It's related back to Adam and Eve and the original sin. So there was a purpose for bringing those two particular twice dead witches. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I didn't expect for there to be that connection, but it was there. And I was looking up stuff like, the use of Antichrist and, terms like that. But the second death was closest to the original sin, which is what this has been all about, right? Is the forbidden fruit. When Michael talks about he doesn't want people in his world that are just going to eat the fruit, they're going to cut down the tree and turn it into firewood. So he wants some bad people to go forward in his world, and they're going to have to fight it with all their might.
No, you're exactly right. And I love that, the line about cutting the tree down. That was like probably my favorite line of the entire episode, I think. And it brings to mind too. And I love, number one, that you're going and looking all this stuff up, first of all, because that means that the wheels are turning in your brain. Whenever you're talking about the two deaths, though, it brings to mind just the way that they died too. And I wonder if that's of any significance, because we had one that was burned twice at the stake, and she said that she found more power in the flames. There was knowledge in the flames. Myrtle did, when she was burned the first time.
Yeah.
Like we have over in the chat, they're talking about Misty Day could have brought them back to life. I think the reason that the Cordelia did is she was the supreme, and she just took a breath in and out and had 3 people rise up. She was that powerful. So, and at this point, all of them have went through the 7 wonders, except we didn't see Myrtle do it, but I'm pretty sure that she could bring someone back. I don't see her struggling now with this, because we know she already came back more powerful after her first death. So I wonder if that's something to say too, if it's something more, would they just become more powerful after that? Or if it's something more.
Well, what it says for the second death, I just took a couple of notes on it because it was very detailed and extensive, and lots of scripture and very biblical. So basically, a second death is associated with judgment following a resurrection, right? So that's kind of like a limbo / purgatory situation, but it's also the death that the wicked die, and the sin will not be forgiven until you die the second death. So these are 2 people who are supposed to have clean slates at this point. So that's something I'm going to be looking for is, okay, how is Madison going to be in her third life now? And how is Myrtle going to take her third chance at life as well? So I'll be kind of keeping an eye on them.
Third time's a charm.
Right?
Yeah, really. Yeah, and that makes me wonder if maybe we will see, because Misty, she's the only one I worry about, because she was turned to dust, so I don't understand how they could bring her back. But I guess if you can come back from ashes and you can come back from dust, maybe, I don't know. But she just like disappeared. Now Zoe, I can see them bringing back Zoe. I don't know if she'll come back as Violet, though, although she's listed to be on there as both, so I'm not quite sure what they'll do with her. Yeah, thanks everybody in chat for coming out tonight. We really do appreciate you. We know we're having a little bit of problems with audio and all tonight, but yeah, just bear with us, guys. It's been an off weekend. Going forward, yeah, it's been a real off weekend. Going forward, do you think we'll see any more of Brock coming up, or do you think that it was probably more a Halloween thing?
You know what? I could see Coco seeking revenge on him for him stabbing her in the head, first of all. That's not something we're talking about sins, right? So that's not something that would necessarily be forgiven. And she's probably going to want, if she remembers what happened to her, or if someone breaks the bad news to her, or she sees a scar on her forehead. I was looking so quickly, I didn't even bother to see whether or not there was. But I remember, like, when Madison had her throat slit, she did have a scar for a long time. And I don't know if, and maybe someone can, fix me, put me straight here. And as far as my memory, whether or not Coco had a scar on her forehead from being stabbed after she was resurrected.
I looked and I didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't faint, or maybe that is how powerful Cordelia is now, is that everything that ailed them is gone. They really do come back with a clean slate, because again, Madison was resurrected and she was scarred up, and Kyle, when they brought him back, he was way scarred from being, put back together, all Frankensteined and everything, until Misty put the mud on him. But that just shows how powerful she is then, if she could get rid of that, on the first try.
With her miracle swamp mud.
Yeah.
Oh, I keep looking that. There we go. Sorry, I just knocked my monitor loose like twice. Yeah, and that's something I thought about too, because I kept looking at her hairline. I've watched it a couple of times now, and I was like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And I thought there should at least be some blood or something, and I don't remember seeing it anytime I've watched it now. Yeah, this week's episode coming up is called, and Cameo said it could be Satan. And yeah, that's this week's title. So I think it's going to be an intro to Daddy's coming around, because we know it's not Michael. He's more the son, definitely by his communications. So
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be the Rubber Man's going to be outed, or is it going to be a totally new guest this time?
Oh my goodness. If they're bringing back Tate, then I have to go with that.
Oh yeah. I still think Tate is the innocent one here. I think I'm probably one of the few people. I don't even know. I don't think I've heard anyone else say that yet. But I do. I think Tate was just another pawn. I think he was used, and he was a victim of the house, and if that makes sense. Because a lot of people were victims in that house and kind of were overtaken and taken control of, and ended up doing a lot of bad stuff, And I think Tate was just one of the sad cases of that. I think he was very easily manipulated, and he lived in that house at a very young age, and Nora took him on when he was I don't know, he looked probably about 5 or 6, I guess, when he was in the basement with his trunk and first seen all the ghosts. So, he was taken in at a young age by the house, so to speak, kind of adopted, I guess. And where Constance didn't pay him any attention. And so I don't think he's necessarily, for a fact, it made me wonder if Nora was the devil, at least in the house. If, because it was talking about that you never know what it would show up like, it could fool you and be in the prettiest packages. And just stuff like that. And it made me go back when I watched Murder House and wonder if it was Nora the whole time, if she was Satan through that whole house. Just by the different things she did, how she acted, how she manipulated everybody. She wanted the baby, and she got a baby, but then she didn't want the baby she got. And now here we are in Apocalypse, back to the whole baby situation all over again. And I really do think it's going to come back to, there's a baby that needs to be born again, And that's why I don't think it'll be Tate. I think it's going to be a separate entity. I think we'll see Tate, but I don't think it'll be in that capacity.
Well, they did have Infantata, right? So, I'm really going to have to go back, and I'm going to have to focus a little bit more on her, because I didn't get that vibe from her necessarily. She just came off more like a spoiled housewife, and just rich on top of it. And I didn't quite get her sense of evil. Now the doctor, on the other hand, he
She was the
maybe
one making him do stuff, and then he kind of got hooked on the laudanum. So I can't say that word, but the where he was breathing in the mask, the laudanum, whatever it's called. And he got hooked on that, but it was her that was pressuring him to do all the abortions and stuff. And he was like, okay, and okay. And so he kept doing them, and he was the one that just wanted to experiment. And then he kind of went crazy after that. But it was her that kept, she was the crazy one from the get-go. And
yeah.
she didn't want nothing to do with her kids. She's like, oh, my kid's crying, take it away when it does that, you know? It was like, at first, when I first watched it, I thought she was just another little, she's just spoiled bitch, just ignore her. And then I went back and watched it, and I'm like, there's something more to her. I think she's kind of more of a manipulator, and, she's doing a little more. She's not only manipulating her husband, but now she's got her claws dug into Tate, and she's got him doing stuff. She's controlling pretty much everybody in the house in some way or another to get what she wants. And it made me start thinking, is she the devil, or the devil in disguise through Nora some way, And then I started looking at the different people that lived in the houses, and you can see how they're influenced in different ways through the different families. But I think it was definitely her. I think her husband kind of went insane, and he was definitely crazy, but I don't think the evil was necessarily in him, at least not at first. Now, later, yeah, probably. But no, I think it started in her.
Okay, well, so with that logic, then it could be the case, because if Michael doesn't want to get his hands dirty, and neither does Nora, they have someone else do their bidding, right? So, I mean, with that logic, I could see that, but I'm really going to have to go back and look at her again, because I didn't quite get that. And then I'm also going to have to go revisit Hotel too. So just to kind of, get the whole picture of that situation, because I he's Michael was doing a ritual to his father, and this isn't like High Valyrian, is it? And where they have like it's gender neutral. So I tend to believe that he is, reaching out to his father, not his mother. So that's where I kind of have the disagreement with that. But I could see the likeness in, not wanting to get their hands dirty. That would definitely, make me think again. But
well, now I still think that it is his father. I don't think that Nora is his mother or anything like that. I think it's his father. Hang on, that is crazy. There's like crazy things happening with my electronics in my house now. Like, seriously, we have no idea. Like, my TV just came on and nobody's near a remote even. I guess they're like, what are you talking about? Okay. You got it. Thanks, Brandon. Yay, Brandon. Good job on the tech. Everybody applaud Brandon. Good job. All right. So, but I think Nora is still like the devil, like a man. I think that's just how he's appearing to the different people or in the house, like he appeared to Tate whenever Tate was a young kid as a Nora, because that's what Tate needed, was a mother figure, like, so it shows up
in form that you need it. Yeah.
Right. So that's exactly whatever you need at the time is what it appears to you as. And if you pay attention all through Murder House, that's kind of what happens even when they live in it. Whoever they're in need of is who shows up. Like when they're in need of the housekeeper, then Nora shows up when they're trying to figure out, oh, we need to design the house, and the Chad shows up, you know. When the babies come in, then Nora shows up when they're trying to sell the house, and she finds out she's pregnant, and then Nora shows up. It's just different times. It's kind of who's needed or who needs them, you know. So, and that goes back to where we were talking about Ben's lines and who he could be related to possibly. I hope that we see that coming forward. And next week, I think we're going to see a lot more with the witches going on. What are you hoping to see going forward? Anything particular?
I am looking forward to seeing, number one, if these people who ate the poisoned apples are going to come back to life or be revived or come out of it, you know, like, oh, that was really bad sickness and dang, that sucked. I'm going to be looking specifically for that. I'm I had a few other things that I was going to be looking for, like I said, Madison and Myrtle, seeing how they treat their third lives with their clean slates, checking out the dynamics between Mallory and Michael, seeing what Dinah contributes to the coven or to Michael, to see if she's going to go the way that that I thought. And I really, as much as I don't want to pay attention to Coco, I want to see if she, you know, develops her powers in a useful way, and if she seeks revenge on Brock. So the superficially, that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for, but I know that I'm going to find so much more when it comes down to it.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I can't wait to see Coco get a little get back for that, because I can see her just being really pissed about that. If nothing else, complaining about her hair. It's like, do you know how long it took to get my hair like this, and then you want to come and mess it up? Yeah, I can just see that.
But you know what? You know what I could see about that though too is that she may come back and find that, you know, that she really was, because Michael did make it a point to say that she was too shallow. So maybe she comes back in her new life completely different, and not this shallow person. She becomes, you know, quite serious and vengeful. That would be an interesting turn for her, and that would make me pay attention for sure.
You know, and that's highly possible, because I remember on the preview for next week, it was talking about, she's like, what do I have to do not to die this time? So maybe that's what she has to do, is kind of not be such an ass this time around. That would be great. Maybe she'll be the one in the gray and Mallory in the purple this time. And yeah, I'd kind of like to see the Dark Phoenix play out in Mallory, because if you know about Dark Phoenix, and some of you guys do, if you're into comics at all, then yeah, you know that there's some darkness there. And yeah, so that could get just a little interesting with the playback, you know, and the back and forth that it could, you know, it would just really be interesting, because yeah, that's some bad right there.
But we have to also remember that Michael stated it very clearly that he was very certain, based on how Venable reacted about the apples, that there's evil in everyone, that everyone is capable of it. So, you know, that I think that's going to play a factor. I think that some of our people that we're not sure about may teeter between being evil and good before they kind of settle into their, you know, what their soul really truly is. So,
you know, you reminded me, it was whenever she took a bite of the apple, it said, Miriam Mead said, there's not a bad apple in the bunch. What if they were all bad apples? That made me think of the actual people there. What if they were all bad apples, you know?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then instead of you know, if you look at who's left, I mean, they kind of are, because none of them really had good intentions. They've all been kind of conniving in some way, shape, or form.
All of their histories support it. For the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. And the ones we don't
Except for
really know
you.
too much about, well,
Yeah.
yeah, but don't trust that either, you know? So, and it's already said, okay, that he's already like, he's a shoe in there. So if he's a shoe in there, then that tells you something's wrong. You know,
Yeah.
if he's already, oh, you're guaranteed at the sanctuary. Okay, why? There's a reason. And, you know, we got the whole game plan with Mr. Gallant's mind and stuff going on. So, you know, I can't wait to see what's going to happen with him, and just because I really do. I think they're going to rise. I think we haven't seen the last of our fallen apple eaters. And I do think it's going to be something there. And I think the others are going to be kind of wondering what's going on, what's so special about those three. But I don't think that we'll see it right away. I think we're going to see a little more with what's going on with the three witches and why they were chosen and what's so special about them first. You know, I think we're going to see maybe a little cat and mouse going on next week. And then probably get more into the others that are still around.
I can see that.
Yeah. And like I said, we still don't know what's happened to the fist. I mean, we seen her get stabbed in the back of the shoulders, but I don't think that's fatal. Not with her, especially if she is AI2. If she's AI2, there's no way that was fatal at all, especially after Miriam got a gunshot.
Yeah, she was gurgling in that mask. So it sounded like, you know, there was blood and, you know, choking on that blood. So that might actually be the end.
Yeah, and I heard that too. And you know what I wondered with that too is if maybe that was her mask getting pulled off, if there was something in it or something, you know, more contamination if she was choking from the air. But
that, because I had that same exact thought. It sounded like so when you wear a gas mask, you're supposed to have a seal on it, right? You're supposed to be able to suck in the air, and if you can suck in, you know, the eye portion of the mask to where it kind of comes inward toward you, that means you have a good seal. And it sounded to me like that seal was broken. And
right.
yeah, so that makes sense to me. So if she wasn't dead one way, she's going to get contaminated and die the other. So she's, you know, hey, there's 2 deaths, right? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. We need to start a death count around here. How many in are we? Oh, wait a minute. There's a lot of millions now, isn't there?
Yeah,
right.
totally.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and wrap this week up. Thank you guys for bearing with us. And again, thank you, everybody in chat. We appreciate you for showing up tonight. We apologize again for any tech issues we were having. Next week, we will be back with you on Saturday night again, I promise. And it will be for, what is it? Could It Be Satan? That's the name of episode 5 this week. Is it 4 or 5? Episode 4. Yeah, we aren't on 5 yet. I'm trying to rush ahead already. I'm ready for Halloween is what it is.
Right?
Yeah, I know. That's going to be a fun one. We'll have to do something special on Halloween night. We're already talking about it, guys.
Yes.
Stacey, thank you again for showing up and talking to me about this as always. You want to give any shout outs?
Yeah, so shout out to everyone in the chat that was hanging out with us. AU Pack Mule, Peter Griffin, Cameo, LMR. We had Reese. We had, let's see, who else? Fandom. Where are you, Fandom? I saw you earlier. And my Cammy, big hug to you. Marie, big hug to you too. You guys, thank you guys for coming through. And I just want to end with my pun of the episode where Miriam Mead called Venable the backbone of the outpost after we saw what was really going on with her back. How I said it.
I love that because that was one crooked ass bitch. Oh, I love it. And yes, thank you. And thank you, Brandon, for showing up in chat again. I appreciate it, darling. Everyone else in chat, thank you for showing up and for talking with us once again about American Horror Story. Check it out again on Wednesday nights, 10 o'clock on the East Coast. If you're Central Time and all that, you get it a little earlier. You guys have a great night. We'll talk to you later. We're out of here.